What's up, y'all? Sparta here, and before I do my in-depth analysis between gaming on the PlayStation Vita versus the Nvidia Shield tablet, I want to first get a review out the way of my Sony PlayStation Vita. Now, keep in mind this is the Sony PS Vita PCH 2000. It's the PS Vita 2000, aka it's the Vita Slim. Now, a couple of differences that this version has as compared to the original PlayStation Vita is that overall, obviously, it's slimmer. It's made the front, not the entire front, but the sides where the buttons are made of plastic, while on the original they were glass. The overall trim around the body of the Vita, on the original it was aluminum. On this it's plastic as well. Now keep in mind, none of this feels cheap, but it still feels good overall. But I'm just giving you guys a couple differences. The PlayStation logo, the PlayStation button doesn't light up on the slim version of the PlayStation Vita, and this is a 5 point. I think this is just a 5-inch display. This is a LCD. On the original, it was OLED, and I think this is I think it's a 680p display. I don't remember. They both have the same internals though. But keep in mind that they both do get really bright. They both are really fluid when it comes to gaming and when it comes to a lot of stuff. Now I'm playing Sly 3 right now on here. And like I said with the what I'm gonna do with the Shield is I'm gonna compare Borderlands 2 and I'm gonna compare Borderlands 2 and what's the other? Garo Mark of the Wolves, as well as comparing PSP emulation on the Shield to native PSP gaming on the PS Vita. That's what I'm going to compare. But first, I want to talk about the games that are pretty much native on the PlayStation Vita. Now, I've had this for about maybe 3-4 years now, maybe 5 years. Now, first, I want to talk about overall build quality. As I said, despite the fact that it's made of plastic, nothing really feels flimsy other than that right there. But that's pretty much, you get the same thing on here, except the whole thing is just one whole thing rather than, well, these are not all separate buttons, but they don't feel like they're about to give out or pop out on me. The two thumbsticks feel really good to use as well. They don't feel crummy or cheap. The front-facing speakers on here are really good as well. And the overall screen quality and screen brightness, how to change that is you essentially just press and hold the PlayStation button, and you do that, and as you guys can see, it gets fairly bright. And you could put music on here too and use it as an MP3 player. And you could also play music while playing games with this as well. If I had Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I'd show you guys. And if I had music on here, I'd show you guys as well, but I don't. Now it has a 2,210 milliamp hour battery, I think. And overall, you could get maybe 3.5-4 hours of gaming on this, depending on how demanding the game is. But standby time on here is ridiculous. You could get maybe 3 to 4 months of standby time out of this, whereas on a Nintendo 3DS, you could probably get not even 2 weeks. I left this in my room for maybe 3 months, didn't touch it, and it was still on full battery. Now, as far as you have your rear touchpad on the back with your PlayStation branding. You have your 5 megapixel camera on the back. Don't really pay mind to that. I never really used it. I used the front facing camera for Skype when Skype was available on the Vita. And that's another thing I'm going to talk about a bit later. The qualms of having a PlayStation Vita as well as the great things of having it as well. Now on the top, you have your power button. You have your game cart slot. Now keep in mind, you could do this. You could get game carts, and you could really save a lot of like storage on your memory card. Which, as Sony always does, you have to use their proprietary memory card. I don't even remember how you put it in. It's been so long. Oh, it's down here. They changed that too. On the Vita, on the original Vita, it was like on the side. On the original Vita, you also had 3G connectivity via AT&T, but no one really used that. But yeah, as I said, buttons feel really good. The control sticks feel really well. Speakers are great. Every button feels really tactile, and it feels really good to press. And when you turn it off and turn it back on, like, it's really fast at turning on and off, booting up and booting down and stuff like that. I'll just give you guys a quick demo of that. And despite the fact that this is not an OLED display, the black levels are actually still pretty nice, if not the best. But I'm going to go and do some gaming with some Vita games. I don't know which game to start with. I have a lot of games, so I guess I'll do Slide 3. Now, this isn't emulated or anything like that. Or, like, not emulated, but this isn't, like, necessarily downplayed. This is a PS2 game that was basically ported to the Vita. And as you guys see, there's a lot of chopped frames right there. But that's pretty much the only time you see chopped frames with this specific game. Like, it's not terrible. Don't get me wrong. I'll give you guys a mini demo of how the speakers are too. Like they're not on par with like the Shield speakers. But when the Vita is close to your face, they're really good. And they're stereo, they're not mono. So when you turn right or left, certain sounds will be on the left or certain sounds will be on the right as well. Now I got this screen super dim, so I can't really see what I'm doing. But as you guys see, there's really no chopped frames. I'm gonna get into a fight real quick. There's really no latency either. My show's about to go in water. Ooh, look. Oh no. But you guys see what you guys see what I mean as far as games don't really run terribly on here. Like the only time they run terribly is when they're bad ports. But I guess I'll do no, I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk it. Konami's been really they've been really bad lately as far as using their content. But shit. As you see, I had a Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 installed, but since I don't have the card, it's no longer I can't play it. Which sucks. It's a really expensive game too. It's like $40. So which isn't really an issue, but I already bought it once. Oh no, I kind of there's for a fighting game. I actually got to turn the screen up a bit. I guess I'll do a little bit of survival. Who to play as? I haven't played as Mila in a while, I guess. Sorry for having it out of frame a bit. Yeah, this is... It's hard when I'm not really focused. Yeah. I haven't played DOA in a bit. If you see me and my homie play on the PS4 on DOA 5 last round, you would know I'm not trash at the game. I just haven't played in a bit. But it also has an internet browser too. Now, unfortunately, there's no longer a YouTube app. There used to be. So what you have to do on here is you have to go to the YouTube browser version, which isn't bad. And that's one of the things I really want to get into as far as, you know, my issues with how Sony has really handled the PlayStation Vita. And the things that they've done wrong with this handheld console is that, and able to combat piracy, what they did was they made the memory cards super expensive. Not only that, like 16 gigabytes, a 16 gigabyte card is like $30. A 32 gigabyte card is $60. I'll just go to my videos. So nobody bought it because nobody could afford anything, really. Nobody was able to afford the memory cards, which you can't even put micro SD cards in here, which is really the stinger. They were going to make a follow-up to this one that did support memory cards. At least it was rumored. I mean, SD cards, micro SD cards, it was rumored anyway. And as you can see, you can use the thumbstick as a mouse. You could also use the rear touchpad as a way to scroll. like as you guys can see. Now my rear touchpad is a bit dinged up. Every even the first version of the Vita had a very bad like touchpad as far as like durability goes, but it works flawlessly still. But I'm gonna start a video for you guys, despite the fact if it'll load. Oh, it is loading. I guess it didn't load. Oh. What's up, y'all? Smarty here, and I want to do a versus video between the LG V20 and the Samsung Galaxy Note 5. Now, these are the best of the best as far as what LG and Samsung have to offer. And by best of the best, I mean their phablets, their big boy phones, not their consumer phones, even the Galaxy S7 Edge. Now, video looks actually really quite crisp on here and quite good. I guess the only real issue that I really have with it is that it's not it's not at least a 720p display. I think that's really my only issue with it. But other than that, it's still a great display. Now, as I said, as far as like memory cards, now it has a micro USB charging port, which is actually really good. But as far as, you know, what Sony did, they really made like pretty bad mistakes as far as making this console available to everybody. Making this console, and I'm calling it a console because it plays games. So keep that in mind. I'm saying in general, they made this console, while they made this powerful, while they made this efficient, while they made it very good to do what it does, my only real issue with it is that no games really came out of it without past the first like 2-3 years. And just, unless you really love indie games and you like indie games, this is the indie game console. It really is. Like, if you really want that, get a Vita. And if you really are adamant about getting a Vita, I'd say get one and get at least a 64 gig memory, 32 gig memory card. Don't get a 64. That shit's over $100. Unless you're really adamant about it, then more power to you. But I have a 32 gig card in here, so I'm cool with it, honestly. But just keep in mind, you guys, that this thing is really special to me. I wouldn't have spent over $200 to get this if I didn't want it. And I wanted a Vita for the longest time. I was a very avid fan of the PSP. And it's sad to see how this came and gone at a quick pace. It's a very beautiful, very powerful device, and I don't exactly know what else to say about it other than if you want one, get one. If you don't want one, then don't. But this is really good if you're a PlayStation fan as well as an indie fan. But that's pretty much it as far as this goes. I'm going to get into my comparison between this and the Shield right after this. Thank you guys for watching and stay tuned.